Hi, so today is January 30th, 2024. Boy, that wasn't coming out very easily. 2024. And it's day number 3 of 33 of my video challenge. So thanks for coming back. I'm Dr. Lauren Kosinski, founder of Metamorphosis Medicine. And where we left off in the story yesterday in this exploration of why we have trouble as doctors exploring every possible avenue that we can to find richer ways of practicing, to come to work with more grace and ease and fulfillment, really being closer to some of the things that attracted us to this work in the beginning, and to be saying less and less often, I didn't sign up for this. So where I was yesterday was saying that I had come to this place where I was being pushed out of the nest a bit because I both found that I couldn't stay working the way that I was. It wasn't working. Something wasn't quite right inside of me, but moreover, something wasn't right in my section and in the relationships that I was involved with at work. And at the same time, I really didn't want to leave medicine or being a surgeon. And I'd been working and thinking about this for a long time. It wasn't like this was just waking up one day and saying, I'd like for this to be better. And I'll go through some of that story, but at the moment, what it felt like is kind of like those spy TV shows from when I was a kid, or a James Bond movie where the hero is in a room that has no doors or windows or they're featureless walls, floors, and ceiling, and the room seems to be compressing, like he's going to get crushed. Or maybe the room is filling up with water. It's kind of like a recurrent nightmare in a way, but that's how it felt. It felt compressed and like I couldn't really see a way out. And because I knew that there were some things that were happening inside of me too, and I had this sense that I didn't have endless opportunities in my life to keep like starting over with things. I didn't want to be in the same place that I was at this moment 3 years down the road, because I had failed to learn from this something I needed to learn. So I was having what now I can hear James Hollis, a Jungian analyst, saying an appointment with myself, which is really what midlife and individuation is about. But in any event, without having all of that story in play at the moment, I came across a book in a library. Well, let me back up for a second. I was actually interviewing for other jobs, like the typical path. And pretty much what I expected was true of all of those. Every job had its problems. The health systems were basically the same. There might be some more helpful or compatible people on site, but fundamentally there were some things happening that I just wasn't thinking I was gonna do very well with. And so one day, wandering through the aisles of a bookstore in Chicago, a bookstore I'd never been in before, I came across a book called Creative Confidence. And the subtitle of this is Unleashing the Creative Potential Within Us All. And it's written by two brothers, one of whom was the founder of a program I've never heard of, but it's called D School, like for design school at Stanford. And it's really a multidisciplinary master's degree program, although they run some shorter programs for people too, that bring people together to solve problems and to unleash their thinking about things in ways that they could solve problems differently than they'd been solved before. And so one of the vignettes in this book that stayed with me was of how to lure talent to startups, because it meant leaving secure jobs and taking a big chance and probably not being able to go back to the specific job that somebody had left to join the startup. And so they had this idea about a parachute. How do you create a parachute for people? And it might be that there was like a financial reward for staying with things for a year. And if things hadn't panned out, that there'd still be a sum of money at the end of that, a little pot of gold at the end of that failed rainbow. And I started to think, what would my parachute look like? Like, what would allow me to have a year or some period of time of freedom to really think about what I wanted to be different and how to achieve that? Because again, I didn't want to leave and I didn't want to stay. So my option was to try to find another way of creating a practice environment in which I could thrive. And so I, on the basis of that book, settled on a holding pattern, a kind of credible position that I felt I could be in for a year to really take these questions on and explore them. I decided that it would be best to do this in New York, where I had worked before, because it was a place that I knew patients were really discerning about the care that they got. This was sometimes a challenging part of being a doctor there, but it was also a really exciting part of being a doctor. And they were willing to pay more for things that they wanted. And so I decided to build a surgical unit, a model, a business plan for this around the idea of holistic care. Now, I didn't have any real information about holistic care or complementary medicine. It wasn't that I had a big commitment or belief or experience in how well those things might or might not work. But what it did provide was a model for dealing with a whole person, for thinking of them not just on the physical plane, but on several other dimensions of being. And that also held promise then for doing the same for the people who were engaged in this unit of care. And I also was interested in the idea that we have an innate capacity for healing. And could we structure something, even in surgery, that was building on and supporting that innate capacity for healing? So I lined up an unpaid position, but to be identified as a visiting scholar, because I felt like that was something that would hold the door open for me, but also give me entree to conversations, even at leadership levels in New York City boutique hospitals, where there was a growing interest in how to address patient satisfaction. But I really wanted to address this from the standpoint not of like what Disney experts had to say about customer service, but about the core experience of being ill or having an operation and getting better. So that was my starting place. And that's what gave me the confidence to move out of my stuck place and into a next chapter. Now, there are lots of twists and turns in the road, so I'll talk about some of that in the next video. But for now, maybe you can think about your own appointment with yourself and also what a parachute would look like for you to take a chance and try to explore or create a practice that you thrive in, not just survive in. One that really matches what you were dreaming about when you set out on this path. And I'm going to tell you that there might be a little Harry Potter in that story. I think there almost always is. And it's not crazy. It's actually important. So that's my thought for today, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.